don't have anything to do with my grandpa, though.
Okay, we can go ahead. Talk loud for me, Dorothy.
Okay.
Go ahead.
This is August the 27th, 2011. I'm Lee Roland. We're going to do a video history of the Boss Roland family. And our first guest is Dorothy. Dorothy was Ice May's daughter. Dorothy, would you tell us a little bit about her grandpa?
Well, I remember that he was a hard worker. He's a farmer. And he went to the field one day, was doing what he called flat weeding. That was when he's fixing to lay the cotton by, you know, go and get the big weeds out of the way. And he didn't come home for lunch. And my grandma told her youngest son, says, you better go see why your papa hadn't come home for lunch. And he went down to the old Tom Snell place where he was hoeing cotton. And he had, they said, drank some ice water, and he was too hot, and he had a cerebral hemorrhage, and it killed him. That was in 1936, I believe.
Would you tell us who your grandmother was? What was her name?
Elizabeth.
What was her name?
Elizabeth Watson. And she married a Roland, and she married Speaks.
What did Grandpa Roland look like? Was he a tall guy?
Yeah, he was a tall, robust guy. He was a jolly person. He had rosy cheeks. I guess he's Irish. I don't know for sure. But he was.
How old was he when he died?
He wasn't an old man.
Okay.
There was a preacher, I met a doctor in Cooper that was good friends, him, Dr. Westerman. I know, maybe Dorbeth knows all about this. So they made a pact between them. Whoever died first, the other one would hold the eulogy at their funeral. Well, my grandfather died first, and Dr. Westerman held a service. You remember that, Dorbeth?
I never heard that, but there's an article about Dr. Westerman in
Yeah.
that County.
My mother had it.
I believe my sister has a copy.
I have
Okay.
the eulogy.
He was a farmer.
Yes, sir.
Okay, what son did Granny Speaks ask to go check on him?
Odie? No, not Odie. Quentin. He was the youngest one.
Quentin
at
was
that
the
time.
youngest one? What can you tell us about our grandmother?
Oh, she was a good woman. She loved all her kids and grandkids, spoiled them. She had good food. We'd go and she'd have something real good to eat.
She lived to be a ripe old age, is that right?
Yes, sir.
After Grandpa Roland died, did she remarry?
Yes, sir. She married a man by the name of Sam Speaks in Sulphur, Oklahoma.
Where did her and Sam live?
In Oklahoma.
In Sulphur,
Sulphur.
Oklahoma? And then Sam died, and then what did Nanny Speaks do?
Well, she moved back. First, she moved back to Cooper. Bought her a place up there, but she got sick, and she never got to move in the house. And then she moved to Pecan Gap, Dorbeth later. And then after that, she had to go to a retirement center.
Can you tell us any interesting stories about her?
Well, not all that much.
Okay. What about, you said you had an interesting story about Uncle Casey.
Yeah.
Tell us about him. He was quite a character.
I was a little girl, about 12 years old, so Aunt Jewel had to have surgery. And they brought her home from the hospital, and she couldn't do the cooking. And so they called my mother, and she got my clothes in a paper bag, and I rode from our house to Gulf to Doctor's Creek with the postman. Claude Pickens was a postman at that time. So he told my uncle when he left me off at the mailbox there, well, Mr. Cummings, I brought you something in the mail today that you never got before. I brought you a girl. and they didn't have a girl at the time. That was before Dorbeth was here. So I think we ate a lot of fried potatoes and stuff like that, because that's about all I could cook at the time, I'm sure. And Weldon, he helped me, so we got it done.
Tell us about your mother and father. What were their names?
Isame and Perney.
Allison?
Yes, sir.
What did Perney do?
Well, he farmed nearly all his life, and when he got to be, I guess 60-something, he moved to Dallas, and he went to work for the school.
Where did he live before they moved to Dallas?
Up here?
In
He's
Pecan
born
Gap?
here in Pecan Gap, in this area.
Tell us about Aunt Ice May.
Well, she's born, I guess, around Gulf. And I don't know how they met or anything like that. I forgot about it if I knew. But they were both real young when they married. And they left Delta County when I was 6 months old and moved to West Texas to work on a farm, a ranch and a farm together. Just people raise their own feed, you know, for their cattle. And we lived there till I was 6 years old, and then we moved back to Delta County.
So, your parents were farmers, and that's still going,
Basically at the time.
that's still going on in your family now?
No, I don't know of anybody that's farming.
What about cattle ranching?
My son raised cattle, raises cattle.
So they've been in agriculture for several generations?
Oh, yes. Me and my first husband, we farmed 41 years together. I may have helped him make 41 crops.
You were telling me earlier about, I think Uncle Odie and my dad helping your dad make a crop. Mm-hmm. Would you explain that to us and tell us what happened?
He come in to help him make a crop. I don't know what you call it at that time, third and fourth or something, I don't know. Anyway, I was a baby, and I had a colic, and I cried a lot. So Uncle Odie, he said, well, if he ever married, he sure wasn't going to have no kids that turn out like me. He was a spoiling kid.
And he never had any children?
Never had any. But Uncle Aubrey, it was a different story. He helped us make the crop one time. And my mother and daddy had a, what you call a big troll that played records. So mother was going to give the young people a party. So they had this party, and there's a young girl in the community coming down visiting, and I'm not supposed to tell her.
Go ahead, we want the family history, dirty secrets and all.
Very pretty girl. Her name was Ellen. Y'all might remember some Allens, some of you. Anyway, she had on what they called a lace dress. And he told my mother, said, well, she's pretty, got on a pretty dress, but it just makes you want to see more.
That was your Uncle Aubrey?
That was Uncle Aubrey.
My dad.
That was your dad. He was good.
He never changed.
No, he didn't. He come to see me pretty soon before he died. And I don't need to tell you this.
Go ahead.
He told me, he says, Dorothy, if I wasn't your uncle and you wasn't my niece, I'd park on your front steps.
You got anything else you want to tell us about the family history? I mean, we're using this for my great-grandkids.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to think. Anything else? Did I tell you about the corn?
No. Yeah, you told me about it, but tell them about it.
They argued, you know, about things. One, he knew more than the other one.
Who was this?
So it was Uncle Aubrey and Uncle Quentin, my daddy, and my grandpa. So they was talking about point rows on an ear of corn. Do y'all know what that is?
No.
The rows on the ear of corn? So the one of them told the other one, if it's a point row on that ear of corn, it didn't make the whole row. If you turned that ear of corn around, there'd be another row somewhere on the other side to finish out that row. Well, nobody wanted to say they was completely right. They go to the barn and bring back a bunch of corn and shuck it. It was true. It was true. If the point row was on there, there'd be another one somewhere on that ear of corn to match it up. Is that interesting?
Yes, it's very interesting.
Yes, absolutely.
I said I wasn't going to talk when I got over here.
I think it'd be more interesting to my grandkids when they get my age. So we're talking about 120 years from now.
I won't never be alive that long.
Well, I won't either. That's why we're taking a picture of you, so we'll remember what you were like and the stories you could tell.
Well, I'll be around 88 on my birthday. That's a round number. You know, each way you read it, it's the same.
Yeah.
I was born on Mother's Day, and this year my birthday come on Mother's Day. And I went to the church. My son, he belongs to Crimson River Cowboy Church, and I was the oldest mother there and the only one with a birthday, and I got the roses.
Well, no wonder.
Anything else you think we'd enjoy hearing about?
Well, I just got me a brand new house.
Oh, tell us about that.
87 years old, and I'm living in my first real home.
Where is it?
About half a block from my son's house.